The assignment begins. The day John left Earth was not a day of celebration. It was a day filled with silence and heavy thoughts. He stood inside the long silver transport ship, looking back at the blue planet he had called home for all his life. Around him, the other chosen settlers were busy saying their final words through communication screens. But John had no family left to call, no one to wave goodbye to. He had been chosen for a reason. Earth was sending humans to different colonies to test survival and cooperation with alien civilizations. Some were soldiers, some were engineers, and some were farmers. John was none of these. He was an ordinary man who had lost much but still carried quiet strength. Perhaps that was why the council selected him. They needed people who would not break easily when everything felt strange. As the ship cut through the darkness of space, John's mind was full of questions. What kind of planet would welcome him? Would the aliens be hostile? Would he be nothing more than a stranger forced to obey rules he did not understand? He wondered if he would be alone, wandering the surface of a cold alien world with no one to speak to. The thought made his chest feel heavy. Days later, the ship arrived at the new planet. Through the window, John saw skies the color of violet, clouds like drifting crystal, and mountains shining with strange green light. The planet looked beautiful but unreal. He reminded himself that beauty could hide danger. He had to stay sharp when he walked down the ramp. Tall alien officials waited for him. Their skin shimmered like stone polished by rain. Their eyes glowed softly. They spoke in a voice that echoed inside his head rather than his ears. "You are welcome, human traveler. You will be given a home prepared for your kind. You will not live alone. One of our own has been assigned to you." John frowned. The words confused him. He had expected soldiers to guide him or teachers to train him. Instead, they were offering someone to live with him. "Who have you assigned to me?" he asked carefully. His voice steady, though his heart beat fast. The tallest alien stepped aside. From the shadow of the crowd, a figure walked forward. She was not like the officials. She was shorter, her frame slender, her skin pale with a faint glow. Her long hair shimmered like threads of silver under the alien sun. Her eyes were large and deep. Filled with quiet caution, she wore simple clothing, a long robe tied at the waist. She bowed slightly, keeping her gaze low. "This is your caretaker," the official said. "She will clean your home, prepare your meals, and keep you safe within the rules of this world." John blinked. He had not expected this. A caretaker, a maid. He looked at the girl again. She did not seem like a fighter or a guard. She looked fragile, almost delicate. Yet something in the way she moved told him she carried discipline. He wondered what kind of culture assigned maids to settlers instead of soldiers. The girl finally spoke. Her voice was soft, almost like a whisper carried by wind. "I am here to serve. I will guide you in your new life." John nodded slowly. He wanted to ask why. He wanted to know her name. He wanted to understand why she seemed so distant, but the officials gave him no time. They handed him a small box filled with basic supplies and gestured for him to follow her. The crowd faded, and soon it was only him and the alien maid walking together on a quiet path. The settlement house was simple. It had smooth walls that pulsed faintly as if alive. The door opened at her touch. Inside, the rooms were clean but empty. Only a bed, a table, and a chair stood inside. The air smelled faintly of flowers. "This is your home now," she said calmly. "I will keep it ready for you each day." John placed his supplies on the table and turned to face her. "Why were you assigned to me?" he asked. "Why not a soldier or a teacher?" She lowered her eyes again. "It is the way of our people," she said. "You are not to question it, only accept it." Her answer made him uneasy. He could feel there was more she was not telling him. Her hands were folded tightly in front of her, her shoulders stiff as if carrying a hidden weight. He wanted to push for more, but something in her gaze stopped him. As night fell, John sat by the window, watching the alien stars glitter across the sky. He thought of Earth, of all the faces he once knew. He wondered if he had been sent here only to be forgotten. But when he turned his head, he saw the maid standing silently in the corner, her eyes fixed on the stars with a look of sadness that mirrored his own. For the first time, he realized he was not the only one far from home. She too was bound by something she did not choose. Two strangers, both caught in a destiny neither of them had written. John leaned back, a quiet thought whispering inside his mind. Perhaps this assignment was more than it appeared. Perhaps she was not just a maid. Perhaps the council had other plans, and perhaps His life on this new world was about to change in ways he could never imagine. The first encounter. The first morning on the new planet was strange for John. The light that entered through the window was softer than Earth's sun. Carrying a faint blue glow, the air smelled fresh. Like rain mixed with flowers, he sat up on the bed, trying to remember where he was, and then he saw her. The alien maid was already awake. She stood near the table, arranging the supplies the council had given him. Her movements were silent and precise. She placed every item in order, as if she had done this countless times before. John watched quietly, unsure how to begin speaking with her. "You were awake all night," he finally said. His voice broke the silence. She looked up, her silver-like hair shifting gently as she moved. "I do not need much rest," she replied. "My duty is to remain ready." "Your safety is more important than sleep," John frowned. "Safety from what?" She paused for a moment, then shook her head. "It is not for you to worry about. My role is simple, to keep this place prepared. To keep you alive, that is all." Her words felt heavy. They sounded like something repeated many times before. As if she had been trained to say them, John leaned back, studying her carefully. She avoided his gaze, always keeping her eyes lowered. There was discipline in her, but also something hidden beneath it, something human-like. "What should I call you?" he asked. She hesitated before answering. "You may call me Lyra." The name was soft, almost melodic. It suited her. John nodded. "I am John." "I know," she said. "Your name was given to me before we met. I was told to care for you, to guide you through the customs of this world." John rose from his bed and walked closer. He noticed her hands, small but steady. They carried faint markings, glowing faintly under the alien light. He wanted to ask about them, but her stiff posture warned him to remain silent. Instead, he asked another question. "Why were you assigned to me? Why not someone else?" Her lips pressed into a thin line. "Because you were alone," she said quietly, "and because I had no choice." The last words struck him. She said them so softly he almost missed them. But they echoed in his mind. Had no choice. That meant she was bound. Just like he was, sent here without a say. Later, as the day went on, John explored the small settlement. The village seemed empty. Only a few other humans walked in the distance with alien guides beside them. But each guide looked different. Some were strong, armored, others wore robes of wisdom. Yet only he had been assigned a maid when he returned home. He found Lyra kneeling near the floor, tracing strange symbols with her finger. The symbols glowed faintly, pulsing like living light. John froze, watching in silence. She looked up quickly, her eyes wide as if caught. "You should not have seen this," she whispered, quickly brushing her hand over the marks. The glow faded, leaving nothing behind. John stepped closer. "What was that?" "Some kind of magic." "It is not magic," she said firmly. "It is part of my duty. You must not speak of it." "Not to anyone." Her voice carried urgency. And for the first time, John saw fear in her eyes. She was afraid not of him, but of what might happen if others found out. He wanted to press further, but he saw her trembling hands. He sighed. "All right, I will not speak of it." She lowered her head in relief. "Thank you." That evening, they shared their first meal together. Lyra had prepared food from alien grains and fruits. The taste was strange, but not unpleasant. John watched her as they ate. She ate little, almost as if food was not important to her. "You miss something," John said suddenly. Her eyes lifted to his, and for a brief moment, he saw sadness inside them. "I miss the sky," she whispered. "My home had skies filled with red light. Not blue. I used to watch them every night. But now I am here." Her words touched him. For the first time, she did not sound like a maid. She sounded like someone who had lost something precious. Just like him that night as John lay in bed, he thought of her. He thought of the way her voice softened when she spoke of her sky. He thought of the strange glowing marks she tried to hide. He realized that Lyra was not just assigned to him. She was trapped in her own way. The house felt different now. Not empty, but filled with secrets. Secrets about the maid, secrets about the world. And deep inside, John felt a shift. He was no longer just a human settler on a strange planet. He was part of something bigger, something hidden, something that would change his fate forever. Hidden secrets of the planet. The days passed slowly, yet each one brought John more questions than answers. The house was always spotless. Food appeared on the table at the right time, and the air inside remained warmer than outside. But he rarely saw Lyra actually doing the work. She moved quietly, almost invisible, and things seemed to change when she was not in the room. One morning John woke early and stepped outside. The sky was heavy with violet clouds, and the air carried a hum like distant thunder. As he walked around the yard, he noticed strange lines carved into the ground near the house. They were faint, glowing slightly as if alive. When he bent down to touch them, the glow pulsed under his fingers. Before he could study more, Lyra appeared suddenly, her face pale. She grabbed his hand and pulled it away. "Do not touch that," she said sharply, more force in her voice than he had ever heard. John looked at her in surprise. "What is it, Lyra? Why is it around the house?" She hesitated, her silver eyes flickering with unease. "It is a ward, a boundary. It keeps dangers away if you disturb it. The house will no longer be safe." "Safe from what?" he asked. She looked at the sky, then back at him. "There are things on this world you do not yet understand. Creatures that walk in the dark. Spirits that do not forgive. You are a stranger here. You would not survive a single night without the protections I placed." Her words struck him. He realized she had been doing more than cleaning and cooking. She was protecting him, secretly weaving shields around the house. That evening, John decided to test what she meant. He stayed outside longer than usual. The sky darkened and the air grew heavy. He felt eyes on him, though no one was there. A shadow passed across the yard, tall and twisted. Its form shifted like smoke but carried weight. John froze, fear flooding him, then in an instant, the glowing lines on the ground flared. The shadow screeched, a sound not from any throat he knew, and it vanished into the night. John stumbled back, breathing hard. When he entered the house, Lyra was waiting, her expression calm but her eyes sharp. "Now you understand," she said. "This world does not welcome you without me. You would already be gone." John sank into the chair, his hands shaking. "Why did no one tell me this before I came? Why hide the truth?" "Because humans are not meant to know everything," she answered quietly. "Your council made a deal. They believe survival comes from trust, so they gave you to us, and gave us to you." Her words felt like a riddle, but John understood one thing clearly. He could not survive without her. She was not just a maid. She was his guardian. That night, John could not sleep. He kept replaying the shadow in his mind. He wondered what other dangers waited beyond the glowing wards, and why the council would send humans here without warning. He turned his head toward the corner of the room, where Lyra sat with her hands folded in her lap, her eyes half closed but never fully resting. "You knew I would see it tonight," he whispered. She opened her eyes slowly. "Yes. Why let me go through that?" Her voice was soft but firm. "Because you needed to understand. You will not listen to warnings until you feel fear. Now you know the truth. Now you will trust me." Her words stayed with him. For the first time, John realized she was not powerless. She had authority not over him, but over the unseen forces of the planet, and he began to see her not as a maid but as something more. Someone carrying knowledge and strength far beyond what she showed. The following days, John noticed changes. Lyra's eyes often drifted to the horizon, as if expecting something. At night, she walked the boundary lines, whispering words in a language he could not understand. Sometimes the house shook lightly, as if the ground itself was breathing. Each time, the glow of her wards grew stronger. John grew restless. He wanted answers. He wanted to know who she really was, but each time he asked, she only said, "I am here to serve." That is enough. But John no longer believed it. There was more, much more. He could feel it in the way her voice trembled when she thought he was not listening, in the way her eyes filled with sorrow when she looked at the alien stars. One night, as the sky thundered with strange lights, John made himself a silent promise. He would uncover the truth about this planet, and about Lyra, no matter what she tried to hide. The bond grows stronger. John's fear of the strange planet did not fade, but something else began to grow alongside it: trust. The nights of shadows and whispers outside the glowing wards had shown him one truth. Lyra was not just keeping the house clean, she was keeping him alive. Without her, he would have already been taken by the darkness. At first, their conversations had been short, only practical words about food or safety. But slowly, John noticed small changes. When he spoke, she listened, really listened. Her silver eyes would lift from the floor to meet his, and in those moments, she did not look like a servant. She looked like someone searching for connection. One evening, after a long silence, John shared a memory from Earth. He spoke about his childhood, about sitting under the night sky with his father, tracing constellations and dreaming of traveling to the stars. His voice cracked as he told her how those dreams turned into a reality he had not chosen. To his surprise, Lyra did not remain quiet. She leaned forward, her voice soft but clear. On my home world, we also told stories about the stars. We believed they were the eyes of our ancestors watching us from beyond, guiding us when we were lost. Her words carried warmth, and for the first time, John saw her not as an alien maid, but as a person, someone who also carried dreams and pain. From then on, their meals were no longer silent. John told her about Earth's oceans, about music, about the strange taste of chocolate. Lyra listened with wide eyes. Sometimes she smiled faintly, a smile so rare and delicate it felt like a secret gift. In return, she told him fragments about her people, about the rituals of light they performed during storms, about how children were taught to sing before they learned to walk. John began to notice her small habits, the way she hummed softly when she cooked, the way she traced invisible patterns in the air when she thought he was not looking, the way her eyes softened whenever he stumbled over the alien language she tried to teach him. One night, as the wind howled outside, John found her standing by the window. Her hands were pressed to the glass, her face lit by the faint glow of the alien moon. She looked so distant, so fragile, that he could not stay silent. "You miss your home, don't you?" he asked. She turned, her eyes reflecting sadness. "Yes, but I am not allowed to return. My place is here now." "With you?" John stepped closer. "Not because you want to, but because they forced you." She lowered her gaze. "It does not matter. What matters is that you survive." But John shook his head. "No, it does matter. You are not just my maid. Lyra, you are a person. You deserve more than this." Her breath caught. For a moment, her mask of discipline cracked, and John saw the truth in her eyes, a longing to be seen, to be valued not as a servant but as herself. From that night onward, something changed between them. She no longer kept as much distance when he laughed. She allowed herself to laugh softly too. When he struggled with chores, she guided his hands instead of silently fixing things behind his back. Their bond was no longer just duty. It was becoming friendship. As days passed, John felt the house grow warmer, not just because of the wards, but because of her presence. The loneliness that had haunted him since leaving Earth began to fade. He still missed his old world, but now he had someone to share this strange life with. Yet even as they grew closer, shadows of mystery remained. Sometimes he caught her staring at him when she thought he was asleep. Sometimes he heard her whispering words he could not understand, as if speaking to unseen watchers, and sometimes her smile faded too quickly, replaced by the weight of secrets she still carried. John tried not to push too hard, but deep down he knew their bond was building towards something greater, something powerful. He could feel it in the way her voice softened when she said his name, in the way her fingers brushed his when handing him food, small touches that lingered longer than they should. One evening, as the alien sky burned red with a strange storm, John and Lyra sat together in silence. The house trembled with distant roars, but neither moved away. For the first time, John felt that he was not a stranger on this world. He belonged, not because of the planet, but because of the bond forming between them. And Lyra, though she never said the words aloud, felt the same. She was no longer just his caretaker. She was something more, something she had not expected. The storm outside grew stronger, lightning splitting the skies with unnatural colors. But inside the small house, two souls, one human, one alien, sat close together, slowly realizing that their bond was no accident. It was the beginning of something greater, something forbidden, something that would change the fate of both their worlds. The threat revealed. The peace inside the small house did not last. For many nights, John felt the change before it arrived. The glowing wards outside the home flickered weaker. As if they were under pressure, Lyra grew restless. She walked the boundary lines again and again, whispering stronger chants, her silver eyes filled with worry. John asked her, "What is wrong? You look like you are waiting for something bad." She shook her head at first, refusing to speak, but finally, one evening as the alien winds howled, she confessed, "They know." John frowned. "Who knows?" "What are you talking about?" Her voice was low. "The officials, the watchers, they know I have broken the rules. A maid is not supposed to protect a human with forbidden wards. I should have left you to the dangers, but I could not." Her words struck him like a blow. He realized then how much she had risked for him. She was not only serving him, she was defying her own people. The next night, the threat revealed itself. A group of alien guards appeared outside the house. Their armor glowed like steel under the strange moonlight. Their eyes burned with cold light. They did not knock. They simply forced the door open and stepped inside. John stood quickly, his fists tight at his sides. Lyra moved in front of him, her body tense. The tallest guard pointed at her. "You have betrayed the command. You are not a servant, you are royal blood. You should not be here," John froze. The words hit him harder than the storm outside. Royal blood, the phrase echoed in his mind. He turned to Lyra, but she did not deny it. Her face was pale, her lips trembling. "Leave him out of this," she said, her voice strong even in fear. "He knows nothing. This is my choice, not his." But the guards ignored her. Their eyes shifted to John, one of them sneered. "The human should not have been allowed here. He is a mistake, he is nothing, we will remove him." "Then deal with you," John's heart pounded. He wanted to run, but his body refused. Instead, he stepped forward, placing himself beside Lyra. "If you want her, you'll have to go through me," he said, his voice steady though his fear burned inside. The guards laughed, their metallic voices cruel. "A human thinks he can stand against us," but Lyra's hand rose, glowing symbols forming in the air. The guards hesitated, shock flashing across their faces. One whispered, "She dares use the old power." John watched as light streamed from her hands. Tracing lines in the air, the house shook, the walls pulsing with the same glow he had seen in her secret markings. Lyra's voice rang clear, chanting words John could not understand. The guards stepped back, shielding their faces from the burst of light. "You should not have come here," Lyra said, her voice filled with strength. "This home is mine to protect, and he is under my care." The guards snarled, but the light forced them outside. They vanished into the storm, leaving only silence behind. John stared at her, his chest heaving. "Royal blood," he whispered. "What does that mean, Lyra?" "Who are you really?" She sank to the floor, her strength fading, her eyes shimmered with sorrow. "I was born to a family that rules, but I refused their path. I wanted freedom. They punished me by binding me into service, assigning me to you. They thought it was humiliation, but instead, it became my purpose." John knelt beside her, his hand gently resting on hers. "They cannot take you back. Not after this." Her lips curved into a faint, fragile smile. "No, after tonight, they will come again, stronger. They will not forgive. You are now part of this, John. You cannot step away." He felt the weight of her words. The bond between them was no longer hidden, it was open, dangerous, and irreversible. He had stood with her, and now the Empire itself might come for them both. That night, as she rested with exhaustion, John sat awake by the window. Watching the alien sky, his thoughts were heavy. He had come here thinking he was alone, just another settler sent to a distant world. But now he knew the truth, he was part of something much bigger. A human standing beside an alien maid who was no maid at all. The storm outside raged, but John's fear had changed into something else. Determination. Whatever was coming, he would not let her face it alone. The stand against the Empire. The night after the guards came, silence did not return. The air itself felt heavier. Like the planet was holding its breath, John could sense eyes watching from the dark. Even though no one was there, Lyra moved slower. Her strength clearly drained from using her hidden power, but her eyes still carried fire. "They will come again," she said softly. "And this time, they will not stop until one of us falls." John clenched his fists. "Then we fight." Her gaze lifted to him, surprise flickering in her silver eyes. "You do not understand, John. The Empire is not just soldiers, it is laws, traditions, power that has ruled for thousands of years. They will not forgive rebellion." John shook his head. "I don't care about their rules. I only care about you. If they want to take you, they'll have to go through me first, for the first time." She looked at him not with sorrow, but with pride. It was as if she had been waiting for those words. The following day, the storm clouds grew darker. Shadows moved closer to the house. John trained himself with the few tools he had, turning farming blades into crude weapons. He had never been a soldier, but he refused to be helpless. Lyra watched him, her face unreadable. "You are not strong enough to face them with steel," she said, "but courage. Courage is something even the Empire fears." That night, they did not wait for the Empire to come. They went to meet it together. John and Lyra walked beyond the glowing wards, into the open fields of violet grass that shimmered under alien moons. In the distance, the soldiers appeared, lines of glowing armor. Their steps shaking the ground, John's breath caught, but he did not turn back. He stood beside Lyra, who raised her hands once more. Her voice rang out, not soft this time, but sharp and powerful. Words in the alien tongue filled the air, carving symbols of light into the sky. The soldiers stopped, their formation breaking. Their leader stepped forward, his voice booming. Lyra of the royal blood, you shame your name by standing with this human. Stand aside and accept your chains, or be destroyed. John stepped forward before she could answer. No, she chooses her own path now, and I stand with her. The soldiers laughed, mocking his words, but John did not waver. His heart beat like thunder for the first time. He realized his strength was not in weapons, but in defiance. The Empire believed humans would bow, believed they were weak. Tonight he would prove them wrong. Lyra's power surged, light exploding from her hands. The ground itself glowed with ancient marks. The soldiers raised their shields, but the force threw many to the ground. John rushed forward, swinging his crude weapon. He fought clumsily but with rage. Each strike carried the weight of his will to protect her. The battle was chaos. Sparks of alien power clashed with the raw fury of human courage. John was struck, his arm bleeding, but he refused to fall. Beside him, Lyra shone brighter than the moon, her robes whipped in the wind, her hair blazing silver as her power unleashed. Finally, their leader staggered. His armor cracked. He glared at them with fury. This is not the end. The Empire does not forget. The Empire does not forgive. With those words, he and the remaining soldiers vanished into the storm, leaving the field scorched with glowing marks. John collapsed to his knees, breathing hard. His vision swam, but he felt Lyra's hands on his shoulders, steadying him. Her voice was soft now, trembling with emotion. You stood for me, you risked everything. Why? He looked up at her, his chest burning with both pain and resolve. Because you are not just my maid, Lyra. You are my partner, and I will never let them take you. Her eyes shimmered, tears forming. For so long she had carried her burden alone. Now she knew she was not alone anymore. That night they returned to the house, broken but unbowed outside. The wards glowed brighter than ever before, as if the planet itself had recognized their defiance. John sat by the fire, his wounds bandaged. Lyra sat beside him for the first time. There was no wall between them, no silence of duty, no chains of law, only two souls who had chosen each other against the weight of an empire. The world would not forgive them, but neither cared. Together they had stood, and together they would face whatever storm came next. The new beginning, the days after the battle were quiet, but the silence carried a different weight. John and Lyra both knew the Empire would not forget. The soldiers might have retreated, but their eyes were still watching from the shadows. Yet inside the small house a strange peace settled, a fragile kind of calm born from survival. John's wounds healed slowly. His body bore scars, but his spirit was stronger than ever. Each night he sat with Lyra near the fire, listening to the hum of the alien winds outside. They spoke more openly now, without the walls of duty between them. She no longer called him master, no longer bowed her head in silence. She spoke his name like it carried meaning. One evening, as the alien moons glowed through the window, Lyra finally shared her truth. Her voice trembled but did not break. I was never meant to serve anyone, I was meant to rule. But I hated the chains of my bloodline. They saw me as a symbol, not as a person. So when they punished me by binding me into service, I thought it was my end, but then they sent me to you. John looked at her, his heart heavy, and now he asked softly, do you still see this as punishment? Her silver eyes lifted to his, shimmering with light. No, I see it as freedom. Because with you I am not a symbol. I am myself. The words wrapped around John like warmth. For so long he had believed he was nothing more than a lonely man sent to survive a foreign world. But now he understood they had both been exiles, both torn from their pasts, and together they had built something new. The following day they stood outside the house, watching the horizon. The wards glowed brighter than ever, as if the planet itself had accepted them. John felt the alien air against his skin, and for the first time, he did not feel like an outsider. Lyra stood beside him, her hair shining silver in the strange light. She reached out, her fingers brushing his. A small gesture, but one filled with meaning. For a long moment they stood in silence, until John whispered, no matter what comes, we face it together. Her lips curved into a faint but true smile. Together, she repeated. That night, as they prepared for rest, John noticed something different. The stars above seemed brighter, like new constellations forming. He thought of Earth, of the father who once traced stars with him, and he realized he was no longer alone in the universe. Lyra sat across from him. Her hands folded gently, she spoke softly. Do you know why they call this planet the place of trials? John shook his head. Why? Because those who arrive are tested, not just in body but in heart if they fail. The world consumes them. If they endure, the world gives them a new life. She paused, her gaze steady. You have endured, John. You are no longer just a settler. You are part of this place now. And part of me. The fire crackled between them, but the space felt closer than ever. John leaned forward, his voice low. Then let this be our beginning. Not theirs, not the Empire's, ours. Her eyes softened, her hand finding his without hesitation. It was the first time she had reached for him, not out of duty but out of choice, and in that touch, both of them felt the truth. They had chosen each other. Outside, the storm winds faded. The shadows retreated, the planet itself seemed to rest. Within the small house, a new chapter had begun, not of maid and master, not of exile and punishment, but of two hearts defying a galaxy. Whatever the Empire planned, whatever danger waited, John and Lyra were no longer afraid. They had faced the storm together and found strength not in power or bloodline, but in the bond they had forged. The human settler and the alien maid, who was no maid at all, stood at the edge of a future unknown. Their story was only beginning, but it would echo across worlds. A story of love, defiance, and hope, born in the quiet corners of a distant planet,